On today's episode, I'm doing something that should probably be illegal. I'm interviewing one of America's most successful trial lawyers, Mitch Jackson, who also happens to be one of the leading social media marketing experts online in 2020. I have a handful of favorite topics that I'll always return to, and one is social media and how to use it to become the most trusted, most sought after, most in-demand brand, personality, or thought leader in the marketplace. It's an often misunderstood subject, difficult for the unlearned and unskilled to master, and Mitch Jackson is the perfect person to talk to about one of my most beloved subjects, social media marketing. So there's no better person to initiate beginners and experts alike into the fraternity of social media marketers. I'm Ken Newhouse. To me, building a profitable business isn't only about generating leads and driving sales. It's about who we are and what we're made of. I succeed in business by finding the most effective client attraction methods and find the most effective client attraction methods to succeed in business. Join us on the quest as we search for the newest and most effective methods you can use to get clients now. I've got a special guest because Mr. Mitch Jackson is the first attorney I've ever had on the show. So Mitch, on behalf of myself and the members of the Get Clients Now Nation, I want to welcome you to the show. How are you doing today?
And I'm doing great. I hope I'm not the last. I hope this experience is a pleasant one for you and your audience. And I'm, in light of everything that's going on in the world today, we're doing great. The family's safe and sound. And I'm excited to be on your podcast and your show today. So thanks for having me on.
I appreciate you being here. And certainly, we're not going to talk legalese today. We're going to talk about social media because you've got an absolutely fabulous book. I first met Mitch after an interview I did with best-selling author Ann Miller. We had an immediate connection, and his interest in social media marketing was something I couldn't ignore. Could you take a minute or two and give us your backstory and a particular interest, how you went from being one of the most recognized, most successful trial attorneys in the state of California? And I don't know if you practice elsewhere, but I used to live in California, as we talked about on our pre-call, but it's a big state. It's quite a recognition to be recognized among that many attorneys. I know there's a ton of people there, but how did you go from that to becoming such an expert, I hate to use the word guru, but in fact, a guru on social media? Give us the backstory and bring us up to speed where we need to be.
Well, first of all, thank you for your kind introduction. Thank you for your kind words. 34 years of hard work. That's the answer. Next question. Now, let's go back in time because we talked a little bit about the guest ranch that I grew up on in Tucson, Arizona. My mom and dad worked together and had a guest ranch. In fact, my grandmother and grandfather started the ranch, and the four of them worked together before I was born. And guests would come from all around the world, and I would watch my mom and dad interact and build relationships with the families where they would come back year after year after year. And I watched them build these personal relationships, not based upon what the guests did for a living, but on what was on the guest's mind that week while they were at the ranch, right? So what's going on in the news, what's going on in their family life, what happened on the afternoon horseback ride, and they talked about it during the evenings. And it really enriched the relationships between my parents and the guest and kept the business going for many, many years. When I moved out to California and went to law school, I started off, Ken, marketing and building my practice like every other lawyer in town. And it was a challenge. They were well-funded. They were well-known. Nobody knew who this cowboy from Tucson was down here in Laguna Beach when I'm playing basketball, right? And after about 4 or 5 years, I took a step back, took a deep breath, and thought to myself, how would my parents build this practice? And my answer was they would build personal relationships. And so I started working on the personal relationships like I watched them do for many, many years back at the guest ranch. And, fast forward to today, that's the answer to the question. When you combine digital, social, and engaging with people online, not only here in town, but around the world, it allows you to take those relationship building qualities and opportunities global on a 24/7 basis as a lawyer, showing my human side. And that's how it all has come together. I gave myself permission to show my human side on social media, just like my mom and dad did back at the guest ranch 30, 40, 50 years ago.
What makes today's interview with Mitch especially interesting is his story. You see, Mitch Jackson, in addition to being one of the leading social media experts online today, is also a best-selling author. But what makes his story so unusual is that he's also one of the leading trial attorneys in the state of California. In fact, he's one of the most successful trial attorneys in America today. That's hard for a lot of professional people to do. I work with a lot of dentists. Mitch, what's one thing about you that the marketplace doesn't know, but you'd really like them to know?
Well, I'm pretty transparent, so I'm going to give you an answer that you probably haven't heard before. And I would suggest the marketplace knows exactly who I am, what I'm about, what my why is, what I care about, what I'm passionate about, and what I stand for. And, it's a shame that more professionals, whether you're a lawyer, a doctor, a CPA, or CEO of a company, they don't give themselves permission to really be transparent and put themselves out there, because it's a game changer, especially in today's world. And what we found, Ken, not only me, but friends of mine that have adopted the same type of philosophy and approach towards life, is once you take the weight off of your shoulders and quit doing what everybody else tells you should do to blend in, to be the same, to be mediocre, and instead empower who you are, show your human side. If you're doing things like everybody else in town, I don't care if you're a chiropractor, if you're a marketing expert, if you're a lawyer or a doctor, I think you're doing things the wrong way when it comes to branding, when it comes to building relationships. Stand out, be different, show your true colors, and that's how you become top of mind in your industry. I think anybody can search on social media and find out exactly who I am. Half the people that get answers to that question probably aren't going to be following me. They probably aren't going to want to be my client, but guess what? I'm okay with that. I don't want them to follow me, and I don't want to represent them as a lawyer. For every person that doesn't like what you're sharing on social, there are 10 other people who love what you're sharing on social. Be around the people you love. That's my secret.
Yeah, that's the art to really good copywriting and good marketing, is you want to be magnetic, want to be irresistible to the people that you want to appeal to, your ideal client, your perfect prospect. And at the same time, you want to repel those people, not to be ignorant or not to be crass or rude, but you want to repel those people so that they don't get into your email list. You don't want the wrong people in your email list. That's just a recipe for disaster. So the fact that you are, I hate to use the word, but I think it's apropos here, legendary as it comes to trial lawyers. I mean, you're all over the place. You've received the highest recognition possible, but you have literally reached the highest level of success as a trial attorney. Now, having said that, your wife's an attorney as well, but you're also, which is just kind of this weird dichotomy, you're also at the top of the game when it comes to this whole social media marketing thing, this whole social media thing. How did this all start? Where did this begin? How did you get to this point?
Well, first of all, the two cases that I was honored to be acknowledged for that you're referencing were cases that I believed in. They were cases that I was passionate about. They're cases involving clients that to this day, I consider good friends, and I care and love about their families. Marketing and branding has always been of interest to me. Back in 1995, 1996, when the internet thing was rolling out, we put up our first website as a law firm. We were one of the few law firms back in those days that had a website. About 8 months later, a $1 million case came into the law firm through that website. They came to the website. Back then, I don't think we called it a blog, but they looked at the post that we were writing about. We were talking about our cases and our stories and the people we were helping. And the client connected with those stories and called us. And to make a long story short, it was a big case. Now, I've never been accused of being the brightest bulb in the lamp. I'm never the smartest guy in the courtroom. But when that case came in, my eyes opened up. I'm like, there's something to this internet thing. And so I just went all in. It was hard for me to stand out at an evening bar association meeting once or twice a week when you're around a lot of established lawyers that have been practicing 2 to 3 times as long as you have. The results are right. And so I realized this is an opportunity to share answers to questions, to help the consumer. Instead of one-on-one across the desk, I'm 1 to 10 or 1 to 1,000. And that's where it all started. And then fast forward to social media, that's like putting fuel on the fire. I mean, this is just amazing. I love the fact that you and I right now in real time are having a one-to-one interview using live video that's going to be available by audio and video across the world. We can share this with our audiences. People in our audience, I may have someone that's following me on Twitter that has 700,000 Twitter followers who may enjoy what they're listening to and watching. Click a button and share this out to 700,000 people that you and I have never met before. And it starts that process of building trust. And it starts that process of knowing and liking someone. And so because of all those reasons, I have just wrapped my arms around social media and digital. I've given myself permission just to share a run down at the beach, early in the morning with a baseball cap. I haven't shaved, I'm sweating, but something comes to my mind and I want to pop on my phone and share that message with the world via Periscope, via Facebook Live, maybe a Zoom. I'll go ahead and do it. And that stuff works. And it has allowed me to continue enjoying the practice of law. I don't know how, the lawyers that you have in your life, Ken, I've been doing this for 34 years. I'm more excited today about getting up and going to work than I've ever been in my life. And it's because of social and digital and all the things and approaches that we're talking about.
I want to kind of transition into your book because you've got this killer book. You've got a book, and I counted, and I lost count when I got to 4 dozen. You got 4 dozen heavy hitters in various levels of expertise. These are like world-renowned experts. I've been blessed enough to have interviewed a couple of these people, but you've got over 4 dozen world-class experts in your book. Give us the title of your book because it's a little bit longer title, but go ahead.
The Ultimate Guide to Social Media for Business Owners, Professionals, and Entrepreneurs. And it was a fun book to put together, and it's more applicable today than ever.
So why'd you write the book? I want to know. What made you go from, you're still an unbelievably successful attorney. You're at the pinnacle of success as a trial attorney. And then you pump out this book with over 4 dozen world-class experts who have joined with you side by side in support of putting out this just brilliant book. And by the way, guys, again, the book is going to be guaranteed. I'm going to guarantee this because it's important not only for the minimal amount of money that you can buy this book for. And Mitch, I'm sure you didn't have too much control over the price, but I think it's underpriced. It's worth multiples of what you're charging for it. But having said that, guys, like I like to tell my clients and our members, we can always get more clients. We can always make more money, but we can never get more time. This is a book that is a wise investment of your time. This is a book you're going to refer to again and again and again. That's going to give you literally, it's like paint by the numbers, hold you by the hand, walk you through recipe for success for social media. And so considering the fact that you can't replace your time, this is a book that I highly recommend that I'm going to guarantee you're going to use it. You're going to benefit from it. You're going to feel like it's one of the best, if not the best social media book you've ever used. If you can't say that, email me at customerservice@kennewhouse.com. and I will buy the book from you. It's that good. Now, having said that, what possessed you? Obviously just writing a book. I've written 2, but writing a book's hard enough. The amount of work, I just can't even wrap my head around this. To get all these heavy hitters, like over 4 dozen people, along with all of your expertise wrapped into this book. What motivated you to write this book?
I got tired of watching other lawyers and professionals get burned out and getting on the hamster wheel each and every day and doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And I was seeing different results by embracing social media and doing the things that we're talking about and the things in the book. And I really feel that having an abundance mentality is the way to go through life. Help as many people as you can and things will eventually come back. That's not the reason why you want to do it, but I just really believe in that. And because social media and digital has just changed everything we've done, it's allowed us to take our brand from being local to global. It's allowed me to meet amazing people from around the world. It's allowed me to get on stage the past couple of years at the Tony Robbins Business Mastery event with David Meerman Scott, who had me come up and talk about some different marketing things that we're doing in front of 2,000 people. I wouldn't have spoken at the event and gotten some of the cases that we've gotten that have come into the firm and met some of the human beings, some of my friends that I've met if it wasn't for social. So I wanted to put everything that we're doing that's working into writing. I also realized, as I told you earlier, and I realized early on that I wasn't smart enough to write this book on my own. And I had a lot of friends that I've met over the years that are very well known on social media, marketing, and branding. They're very well known when it comes to communication. One might be Carmine Gallo, who wrote Talk Like Ted. And Carmine was kind enough, and all of these contributing authors contributed chapters. I didn't pay them to do this. I just asked them if they would do it, and they did. It's very kind of them. But, Carmine wrote a chapter for the book that talks about if you want to communicate effectively on social media, you need to tap into what the great TED speakers do. And it's all laid out in the book. It's talking about creating emotional content in a unique way that's memorable. If you put those three elements together, and he shows you how, then your content on social media has a better chance of standing out than someone that doesn't do that. The book's broken down, Ken, into three sections. And this is where a lot of people drop the ball. Social media is like snow skiing, okay? Anybody can go to a social media website, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and set up a free site. You can go to the sporting goods store and buy skis and bindings and drive up to Mammoth Ski Resort in Northern California. Anybody can start typing things into a social media platform and keep their fingers crossed and hope that good things happen. Anybody without any skiing experience can take the lift to the top of Mammoth and think to themselves they're going to make it down in one piece. But unless you know how to go about using each particular platform, unless you've taken ski instruction lessons by a good ski instructor, you're not going to get the results that you want to get. And so what we did in the book was broke it down into three sections. The first section is having the right mindset. Having the right mindset for social media. It's having a go-giver type of mindset. I don't care who you are, what you do for a living. If you're not giving and giving and giving and engaging and helping on social media, it's not going to work for you. So, guess who started the book off? Bob Berg, co-author of the Go Giver series of books. And Bob's a friend of mine, and he was nice enough to put a chapter together explaining this type of mindset. We also, after 7 or 8 chapters on mindset, we go to the second section, which is understanding the personalities of each social media platform. Twitter's different than Facebook. LinkedIn's different than Instagram. And we talk about understanding the personalities of each platform with experts on each platform sharing tips and approaches and tools to properly utilize those platforms. The third section of the book, which is my favorite, is all about communication. And that's where the trial lawyer part of me comes in. I think we've got 15, 16, 17 chapters on communication that you can use offline, in the courtroom, across your desk, during a phone call, or online when you're creating social media content, whether it's an audio, a video, or a written post. And because I just love the power of communication, and I'm working on getting better every single day, that third section of the book is just, like I said, it's just a game changer for anyone, even if they don't have a social media account, right? When I'm speaking to at Social Media Day San Diego or Periscope Live or Periscope Summit, which have nothing to do with law, but everything to do with social media, live video, and entrepreneurship, I get the same questions from everyone in the audience. Young entrepreneurs that start these $1 million companies with a couple of Twitter DMs. There's no contracts. And so what I wanted to do is just put everything together and say, here you go, you guys. This is it right here. You don't have to recreate the wheel. This isn't rocket science, okay? It's just a matter of knowing these three components to social and digital and then putting them into play. If you work on your communication skills, if you understand the personality of the platforms, if you go into it by offering value instead of asking for something, you can create amazing, long-lasting, provocative, interesting, useful content for your audience. But for all of those reasons, I got to the point where I need to put all this down into writing, and I need the experts to help me do this. So that's what we've done, and it was a fun project. It was a lot of work. And now I'm glad I'm back to trying cases.
Take 30 seconds to a minute and tell us what was the most stressful thing about writing this book.
Most stressful thing was making sure that a chapter submitted by contributor A was congruent with a chapter submitted by party B, by party C, by party D. We had people from all over the world sharing chapters, and I wanted the book to flow. And so it was a challenge to get different people to submit chapters in a way pursuant to a certain theme so that, something would flow from chapter 16 to chapter 17.
Okay, so as it relates to social media, you talked about in one of the earlier chapters that you wrote, because you wrote multiple chapters in the book, what is the success mindset for social media? Take a minute or two and tell us what that is and why that's important.
It's all about adding value to your audience. It's all about helping and giving. It's all about engaging. It's a matter of not only creating content that's useful, engaging, and helpful, but once you put that content out there, it's answering the questions. It's responding to the comments. It's creating follow-up content. If you pay attention and you listen to what your audience is telling you, what they're writing, what they're saying in your video responses, it gives you a very good indication of what additional content they're thirsty for, what additional questions they need. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about the audience. It's solving problems for them. It's fixing issues for them. It's answering questions that they have. That's the mindset I think you have to have as a professional. Most professionals, and I'm the first one in my family, right? And I'll tell you, most professionals, it's all about me. It's all about my office. It's all about how my office does things. No. On social media, it's all about the other person. The most important question we ask in our office, Ken, and this is from my experiences on social media, once we're done, once we're retained, we've answered all the questions, the client's ready to leave, I'll look at the client in the eye and I'll say, how would you like us to communicate with you? And they'll stop and look at me and they'll say, what do you mean? I said, well, would you prefer text, email, snail mail, phone calls, private message on Facebook or Twitter, DM on Instagram? How would you like me to communicate with you? And they're surprised, for me to ask that question. And depending on their answer, whatever they ask us to do, subject to state bar rules, that's how we communicate with the client. But it's all about putting the client's best interests first. So that's the mindset of social media.
In your opinion, why do most business owners, professionals, fail at social media?
Because they do just the opposite. They overcomplicate the process of sharing, adding value, and listening. And it doesn't have to be a complicated process. I think if most professionals would give themselves permission, and we talked about this, to share the human side, and I know it's not easy for a lot of you, okay? I get that. But once you do, everything changes. And I'm talking about being strategically transparent. It's not about going live with dirty laundry of dishes behind you. Put some thought into what we're doing. You rarely get a second chance to make a good first impression. And that applies to social media, live video, recorded video, and podcast, right? So pay attention to what you're doing, but at the same time, be you. And if you're you, nobody else can duplicate that. And that's how you stand out on the digital platforms.
Yeah, I'm surprised that some of the clients that I used to work with, multi-million-dollar practices, dentists, even chiropractors, and I would come into their office to consult with them. I mean, you walk in and it looks like you're almost in a warehouse. And the first impression that a new patient gets, and some of these, as an example, some of these dentists are doing $100,000 full mouth restorations. And so you walk into their office and you got boxes open of, because they got all their sundries and all the different things they get. And I'm like, you can't have this. This has to be like a wow experience before they ever get there. But certainly once they walk in your office, they need to be like mesmerized by just like, wow, I'm here. I've arrived. And
you said something. Let me, I don't mean
No, run with it. Go ahead.
You use the word experience, and I haven't brought that up. Everything we do is about creating an exemplary client experience, a memorable client experience. We're respecting the time and attention of our clients. And the reason we're doing that, Ken, and you already know this, but I'm glad you brought that up, is if I had my phone in my hand, which I don't, it's charging right now, we're a tap and a swipe away from a prospective client going someplace else. And so everything we're doing is about the client experience, and we don't always get it right. I was on a show about 2 years ago with Gary Vaynerchuk. You know Gary Vaynerchuk, right? So we're talking about time and attention, and his eyes lit up when I talked to him about, Gary, 15 years ago, I would take 2.5 hours to give an opening statement to a jury. Today, my opening statements are 20 minutes long, like a TED Talk. I speak in, at that time, 140 character Twitter. Now it's 280, but I speak in short, concise, to the point items. I'm cognizant of the time and attention that I'm taking away from these people that don't want to be here in court. My goal when I sit down is to have let them know that I'm to the point, I'm honest, they can look at me as a leader in the courtroom, and I'm not there to waste their time. I'm there to find justice for my client. And I know I've successfully done that after the first objection during a trial. And for those of you that have never been in a trial, the attorneys will object to evidence or maybe something someone else says during a trial. And I'll know that I'm at that point where somebody makes an objection and the jury looks at me first before looking at the judge as to what the answer should be. And it's a very subtle glance, but I'll know at that point in time, I've got their trust. Now, when that happens, I'll immediately look up at the judge and I'll wait for his or her ruling on the objection, right? He or she is running the courtroom. But that tells me I need to keep going down that path to gain their confidence in order for me to get the best result I can for my client.
Experience really is where it's at. If you have a less than fabulous experience, there are too many choices that we have to want to deal with or put up with somebody who isn't providing the best experience. But with respect to social media, a lot of people listening to this are going to say, you know what, I want to do social, but I just don't think I can come up with all that content all the time. But one of the things you said in the book that really stood out to me is you talked about repurposing content. And so what I want to know, in your opinion, is what about the idea of repurposing content surprises you the most?
How powerful repurposing content can be. I'm sitting in court. We're in a 2-week trial. It's like a Wednesday morning, and we take our morning break for the jurors to use the bathroom. We can go out and grab a cup of coffee, a glass of water. Opposing counsel leans over to me, and he shows me his phone. This is my wallet. He shows me his phone. He goes, "How did you just tweet this out? You've been sitting next to me all morning." Right? So he had no idea that we're using a platform called Agora Pulse. And I am a brand ambassador for Agora Pulse because I love the product. But on Sunday nights, what I'll do, and I think it was Sunday Night Football, I sat down and scheduled 10 to 15 different short tweets taken from a blog post that I had written earlier that week. And we scheduled the tweets to go out according to the Agora Pulse schedule for the next 10 days. So while I'm in court trying cases, my content's being shared, on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on different Facebook pages, on YouTube, whatever it might be. So the power of repurposing content, create a piece of content once, whether it's a podcast, a video, or a blog post. And then you can break that content down or have someone in your front office or have a virtual assistant or have a social media agency break that content down into little bite-sized pieces. You share those little bite-sized pieces out on the different social media platforms, respecting the personalities of each platform, linking back to either your original content or maybe some other related content you've created years ago. And that's the dance that we do. I guess, so, the ease of doing so, number one, and number two, the power of creating content that you can use over and over that's relevant, that's helpful, and doing so in a way that doesn't, you don't want to expose yourself too much to your audience. There's a dance there. It's the social media dance. So you want to be careful with how often you do this. But if you use the platforms to help you schedule this out, their algorithms will make sure that you're not stepping on anybody's toes. So it's a powerful way to just keep your brand moving forward, even when you're busy doing what you do for a living.
So let me ask you this. What's the best piece of social media advice you've ever gotten, and who gave it to you?
The best advice I've ever gotten is to show your human side, to be real, be genuine, to add value, to not ask for anything in return or expect anything in return. And I think it was Gary Vaynerchuk that shared that with me.
Yeah, I love Gary. I have a problem with this is a clean show, so it doesn't happen often, but yeah, that's my only thing. A guy's so brilliant, and I know that appeals to his audience, but guy's a genius, man. He's an absolute marvel. And the fact that you're friends with him and he's endorsed your book, and the fact that he supports you in your work that you're doing is just, kudos to you for having that. But
well, Ken, real quick, he's got a potty mouth. And so I had him on talking to high school students here in Orange County, California, about taking that next step to college, right? And before the show, I said, Gary, we can't go there. Right? You can't have a potty mouth. And he was fine with it. I mean, it was like, he's smart enough to figure out how to play to his audience. That's what it comes down to. Yeah, and he's also smart enough to understand that his default is just being himself. And that's not the way I speak. That's not the way I roll through life. But I'm able to separate that from, you asked me a question and I wanted to give you an honest answer. My honest answer, that was it. Now, having said that, the next honest answer, if you were to ask me that question today, like, hey, Mitch, what's the best advice you can give? My best advice is to be yourself. Like, be yourself and just add value and pull back the curtain a little bit. Same advice is just coming from me and not him.
People are trying to put on a facade because they think that's what they need to do. A lot of social media is just not real. And I think those people don't do well with respect to social media. The people that are doing really well are authentic and they're delivering value. I like to tell my clients and our members, when you go to meet with someone, especially for the first time, don't go with your hand out expecting them to put something in it. Go with something in your hand that you can give to them to establish a relationship of trust and to show them that you're not a taker. I don't know how many requests I get for people to be on the show because they want to hawk their coaching program or their books or whatever, and there's no value proposition they want to bring to the audience. Thank you, but no.
And that's the challenge when you're dealing with professionals. When you're dealing with type A personalities that want to close the deal and they know how to close deals, yes, you can close a deal in one tweet, okay, if you need to, but you're going to alienate your audience. You're not going to build relationships. This is more of a long-term play. You've heard this analogy, people say, well, social media, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. I don't think it's either. I don't think there's a finish line when it comes to social media. I think that it's more like a healthy diet or a good exercise routine. Things are changing constantly each month on social. Platform preference, the personalities of the platforms. And so we have to treat that as our diet, as our workout plan. And it can be a challenge, not closing the deal. But I think if you listen more than you write, podcast, live video, or speak, if you listen, I think that's something more professionals need to do more often. And it's going to take them a lot further along when building out their brands, when building out their companies, and when trying to increase their end-of-year revenues.
One of the things that I learned a long, long time ago as a direct marketing copywriter was talk about in my copy the things that are top of mind, the things that people are talking about. And one of the things that I really, really like about, among all the things that I like, but something that just caught my attention because I deal with it all the time, you came up with the term newsjacking. So I'd like you to tell us what is newsjacking and why is this a strategy that we absolutely, as a business owner, cannot ignore on social media?
I just wrote about this last night, Ken. First of all, David Meerman Scott came up with the term newsjacking in my world, okay? And I was just writing about this last night in my mastermind, sharing something with my members because it's the most powerful tool I've ever used to build my brand, to market my business, to get in front of a brand new, huge audience. And newsjacking, you guys, is simply injecting your thoughts, your opinions as to breaking news stories. Okay, so when something happens that's a breaking news story, if you're interested in that topic, if it relates to your business, your practice, your profession, you can jump on Twitter, Periscope, Facebook Live. You can do a blog post. There's a right and wrong way to do it, but you can share your thoughts, your comments, your suggestions as to what's happening. I usually will take the breaking news story. For example, when the Bill Cosby story broke, where he was accused of putting medications into women's drinks, okay? I was down at the beach. I was listening to a show. I heard the breaking news. I stopped and went on Periscope, and I immediately shared a story because I think I had been reading about it, but they finally filed charges. My daughter was just starting college at UCLA. As a father, as a dad, my biggest fear was something like that happening at a party. And so I stopped and I talked a little bit about this through the eyes of a father, talking about the health and safety of his daughter. And then I talked about, in the state of California, my understanding from a civil standpoint or from a criminal standpoint is that these are, if this is being prosecuted in California, these are some of the issues that might come up. And I'm curious to see where this case takes us. So I did this on Periscope, and I'd say probably 2 hours later, by the time I got home, showered, and went into the office, I had probably 15, maybe 20 different messages from reporters wanting to follow up on the Periscope they saw on Twitter. They were looking for a lawyer to comment on some of the sub-issues that we're talking about. And I don't care who you are, what you do for a living, there's news happening every single day that you can share your thoughts and your opinions about. And reporters are looking for experts. They're looking for people that can offer that next level analysis, that next level thought process based upon who you are and what you do. David's got a book on Amazon. I think it's called Newsjacking, okay? And I think it's $6. And it will take you by the hand and show everyone how to newsjack the right way, because it's a two-edged sword. If you go about newsjacking the right way, you can add value to the story. And I try to do so in a positive way. If you go about newsjacking the wrong way, it can really hurt your brand. And in the book, what I did with David's permission and with his blessings and with his help is the chapter you're referring to on newsjacking. That is what he talks about in the book. That's what he and I talk about on stage at Tony Robbins. That's what we've talked about in different interviews around the country. And it's just an easy way to create content for social media while also building your brand and sharing your expertise so that you get that call, to be interviewed during an evening show. You get that call to be interviewed or do a keynote on stage at a national convention. Super powerful technique, and I'm glad you brought it up because it's a game changer.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I would actually love to have him on sometime on the show to talk about that, because I think it's probably, like you said, in my opinion, not referring to social media, but one of the fastest ways I found to build a business is through strategic joint ventures. I target market to your herd of clients, customers, patients, whatever they are. And you do the same with mine. And obviously there's a lot that goes into that. You got to vet the person you're working with. You got to make sure it's in the best interest of your people. You leverage the trust relationship. And that's why, again, you got to make sure the person you're working with is like totally legit and above board and a really cool person who's going to, do all the right things. But when it comes to social media and newsjacking, I was just like, wow, this is copywriting, but he's taking it to a whole different level here from a completely different angle. This is super, super cool.
Let's talk about the power of that real quick, because I'm going to hook you up with David. So Sunday morning, I'm home down on the couch. This is last year. And I get a private message on Twitter from Bob Berg, who was at the National Speaker Association being named Speaker of the Year. He's in the audience. Mitch, David's on stage right now in front of 1,000 people using your newsjacking approaches on the Paul Manafort case. What happens when you're indicted? I think that was my story. What happens when you're indicted? I didn't go into politics. What I did is I talked about the process of being indicted, right? Up on stage, and Bob took the time to message me and just let me know David's on stage doing this. It's because he was showing what we're doing when it comes to newsjacking, right? And so the power's there, and everyone in the audience probably never heard of me before, but I've got people in the audience that are pretty well known messaging me about what they're hearing on stage, right? So what's everybody else think? Here's the thing, David and his daughter Rico have a new book out. It's called Fanocracy. You got to get him on your show to talk about Fanocracy because it's a game changer. And he talks about creating fans, whatever you do for a living, take care of your clients, but also make them fans, raving fans of who you are and what you do. And they'll share your story. They'll share your products and services with their family, with their friends, with their fans. It's a very well-written book. And I know David is very proud of having the opportunity to work on the book with his daughter, who, by the way, is a first-year physician on the front lines right now in Massachusetts. And so it gave him an opportunity to work with her, but it also gave them both an opportunity to take this relationship building approach one more level. So it's called Fanocracy, and I know he'd love to be on your show.
Yeah, I would love to have him on the show to talk about that book. That sounds amazing. Yeah, I would love that. So let me ask you this. I got one more question for you, and then we're going to talk about how people can get in touch with you and find out more about you and get your book. Mitch, what's the one question today that I should have asked you? And obviously, we've got a book that I couldn't scratch the surface if I had an interview with you 16 hours a day for 10 days straight. It's just not possible. That's why you guys need to invest in this book. It is that good. It's that deep. This is a manual. This is not a one-time read. This is a manual you can refer to over and over and over again. But what's the one question today, Mitch, that I should have asked that I didn't ask?
Well, I think we talked about things are changing quickly on the social and digital platforms and how human beings are interacting and how we're engaging with each other, right? Working from home, using Zoom, using live video services. I think the question we all need to look at is where are we going in the next 12 to 24 months? What's the technology that we should be paying attention to? What are the platforms that consumers are using? And I think the answer to that question, it's a twofold answer. Number one, I think live video has been and continues and will continue to be a great way of communicating with other people, of closing more deals, of being more efficient, of respecting other people's time, focusing on live video. Number two, audio and voice. Services like, and I don't want to activate her, but services like Alexa. Okay. I hope everyone heard that.
He said like Alexa, in case he just want to turn on his Alexa.
There you go. She can't hear you. And Google Home, because I think what we're finding is these products, these services are so easy to use.
You're talking about like a flash briefing on Alexa, correct?
Absolutely. It's using voice and using search voice and creating content like we're doing. If you guys go to mitch.today, you'll be able to click and connect to my daily briefings, my weekly briefings, and see what I'm talking about. But I think audio and voice are the direction we're all going. And I think that's something that I'd love to see people focus more on. If you're a professional, if you're a business owner and you're focusing on these two technologies, live video and voice, over the next 24 months, and you understand the platforms and you get good at communicating, right? By the way, going on live video, it's using your hands. It's looking at the webcam, not down at where Ken is. Hey, Ken, how you doing? Now I'm not looking at you. It's learning how to use these products and services in a way that allow you to stand out, that allow you to make an impact, that allow you to make your point, learning how to tell stories on these two platforms. I think professionals that embrace these two platforms, so I just answered your question about, are the ones that are going to position themselves for future success, and they're going to stand out in venues that just aren't occupied right now by a lot of professionals who are standing out. So I think that's the way we're going.
Yeah, I think the opportunities are just immense. They are absolutely immense. So let's ask you this. What's the best way to get a hold of your book? You want us to go on Amazon, your website, and then we'll know about your website as well. So let's talk about that.
Well, I mean, the book's available at Amazon. If you type my name in, Mitch Jackson, it'll take you to The Ultimate Guide to Social Media. It looks like this. It's available in paperback, on Audible, and on Kindle. We had someone who's now a friend of mine, a professional, do the Audible, and he's just a professional voice actor. And I just love listening to him take all of my friends who contributed chapters, and it's all in his voice. And so knowing how they sound in real life, but listening to Rich, it's a beautiful thing. You can also get the book and connect with me on the non-legal, non-lawyer stuff over at streaming.lawyer. That's streaming.lawyer. Everything we talked about is at the platform. And what we try to do several times a week is share a new communication tip, a new social media approach. An interview like this would be embedded in the blog just to help everyone move forward in an easy fashion and get up to speed on social media.
What about your coaching? I know you've got a mastermind for attorneys, but do you have any other type of coaching programs?
So the mastermind is actually, I set it up for lawyers, but we have professionals from all walks of life because obviously these concepts apply to everyone. It is. It's a cool community. And it's legalminds.lawyer. That's legalminds.lawyer. It's available over at streaming.lawyer. But what we do is we share content. We're rolling out on Monday, by the way. This is an exclusive. I haven't told anybody this. You want an exclusive? We've redone the whole platform, okay? Where on Monday, we're rolling the platform out. And everyone's going to have their own app. So all of the content's going to be available to our members on their phones. All the content's going to be available on their websites, their tablets, their desktops in one place. It's a private social media community. So no more having to go out to Zoom or a Facebook group or to a website to digest all of this content. It's going to be in one place. And it's a great community. We have weekly live videos. We have guests come in to talk to the group. And then, of course, we have your real-time chats where people will crowdsource solutions to different challenges that different members have. And it's just been a great community that I put together because I was speaking at a lot of lawyer association conventions, Ken, and things that I was listening to when I was in the audience, like I keynote and then I stick around and listen to what other people were saying. The approaches and the techniques were so far behind the times. I mean, it was just like, this is ridiculous.
I'm laughing just because that's what I dealt with in the dental industry. And yes, I was just like, you've got to be kidding me.
And so what I decided to do almost 4 years ago was to create a mastermind and just tell it the way it is and just share what works. And then bring in all of these experts that I've had a chance to meet over the years and bring them into the mastermind and connect them with different people in the mastermind so they can learn how to podcast and use live video and use voice services. It's all, right there. So it's kind of a fun thing to do when we're not trying cases. It's just something else for me to do that keeps me busy, that adds value, and keeps me young. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I can tell your members, I know your members really love you and appreciate you, but that's the thing, that's one of the questions I was actually going to ask you today. I'll ask it now. Do you see yourself retiring at some point, or are you going to keep doing this?
Nah. No, I'm in a profession where I see myself doing this until I can't do it anymore. I love what I'm doing. I have the ability to create a schedule where I do what I want to do when I want to do it. Okay. And I've always been that way from day one. When I started practicing, Ken, I practiced out of the back of my car and shared some office space with another lawyer. In exchange for me working 20 hours a week on his files, he let me use his conference room. And that's how I started. And so as the kids got older and we're playing sports, I coached them in all the different sports, and I always kept my calendar open from about 3:30 on. So I'd be available to be the coach. And to this day, I do the same thing. We're not a volume practice. We're very select about the clients that we take. And I do that for two reasons. Number one, I want to be able to give them all of my time and attention. And number two, I want to have time to spend with my family, which is the most important thing to me in the world.
Sounds like the same exact model that I have for my business as well. And some people just don't get it, but you can create that for yourself. It takes effort, it takes work, but the payoffs, your family, you've only got your kids once, you've only got your spouse once. You've only, my parents are relatively, my dad's 82, my mom's 79, going to be 79 in August, and they won't be around forever. And so for me to be able to invest the time and, have this much time with my parents like I do now and my kids, it has been a real, real blessing. And it's all because I followed the same plan you did, and I set my business up so that I could actually be free when I wanted to be free and live the life that I wanted to live. And God's really blessed me. So, hey, listen, I want to thank you for being on the show today. And certainly at some point in the future, I would love to have you back. I'm thrilled with the fact that you did the show today. I know you're extremely busy. I know you're in super high demand, and I know you do limit the number of clients you have, but you got family obligations. You have all these things you do for charities. You have all these things you're doing with your clients. And so I know getting you on my show was a big deal, and I appreciate you investing the time to be here and providing so much awesome stuff. And guys, again, you want to invest in the book. You absolutely want this book. Again, I'm guaranteeing the book. It is a wise investment. I promise you, you will be thrilled and delighted and thank me. And you're going to want to thank Mitch for investing the time, because this was a labor of love. Nobody in their right mind invests this much effort to put together a book of this magnitude without really being passionate and really caring about the end product. It's just really an amazing book. But
thank you, Ken.
Mitch, I appreciate you being on the show today.
Thank you. It's nice being on. I appreciate all of your kind words, and I'm here for you and anyone in your audience that has any follow-up questions.
Our objective with this podcast is to help you and your business stand out in the marketplace by crystallizing your messaging, marketing, and communications. On behalf of the whole Ken Newhouse team, thanks for listening.